Hi, this is Biffle Cup with the Triheart podcast. No one is in studio. It is just Biffle Cup solo today. The other two boys are running some other 50 stuff. um, and I am in studio with Pixel Journalism, Earl,
Hello, it's
and
me.
and we also have featured music by Stephen Bupp. Earl, how's it going? Do I just call you Earl, or is
That's fine. I live a weird life where I have several different names and different groups know me by different names. So I've just accepted. I just know to react to certain like names like their keywords in Google search. So Earl works for this time.
That's so cool. I only know you as a photographer. What other communities are you a part of?
I guess it's kind of it. All the communities I'm in are like ones that are photo based. Well, they're one that I've gotten to know through photos. Like photos was always my avenue to get into another group, because like any good person, I hate talking to people I don't know or people I do know. So it's kind of thing where like if I so like I know a lot of drag stuff. Like that stuff's kind of cool. We went to like reclaim Pride that happened this Sunday, and like I know the people from that from time when I've shot drag races or shows at a bunch of local venues. Places called like House of Yes in New York. Uh, so like everything I can trace back to photos. So it's like I know a lot of costume people. I know a lot of that stuff. That's cool. I guess technically furry stuff. That was how I got into like going to cons. I guess the roundabout way of figuring out what MagFest is. video games. It's hard for me to list them because everything like winds back to photos. So like if I try and list everything out, it's me just like thinking of people who do things like, oh yeah, I've been to that one thing. I don't know how it works, but I've definitely been to like 4 of those shows and pretended and nodded along.
You know what? I should have asked you to begin with some context. So tell me a little bit about yourself and pixel journalism.
Sure. No, you know what? This is actually a common answer, a question I get when people do ask me what the hell I do, because I can say photos and be done. Or it's like, well, I shoot photos of things, but only of things that aren't commercially viable. It's like I don't shoot anything mainstream. I never meet people. I always meet folks who are working on budgets or who are in some sort of niche crowd. Like very much this, like chiptune stuff is way better now. Like it's way easier world. So like anyway, I shoot photography as my main thing. That's my main passion in life, my main squeeze. It's always been event work, and kind of like my mind is because event work, anything can happen. You can shoot event work and one day shoot a chiptune show, one day shoot, a pride parade, next day shoot portraits that are just happening like on the street from some random event, or you can just walk around and shoot random stuff. I like that I don't have to plan it out. I like doing portraits. I like doing street stuff. I like doing commercial shoots. But it's always been like, it's always just been like very opportunistic when that stuff pops up. Because like it's kind of thing where I might plan something out, but a lot more often is when someone comes to me with an idea for like a shoot. If I'm left to like my own devices, it's always like me looking for something bizarre and that like interests me, that I think I can make visually interesting to other people or to someone else.
What would be something that maybe you had been offered that you turned down because it didn't fit your mold or fit your style?
Oh, okay. I think every photographer has that stage in school, if they go to school, or like early life otherwise, where they look up, how do I make money doing my job kind of thing. So it's the kind of thing where you start looking online, and the thing that pop up are like 3 main things, which is like new journalistic stuff, and then product and commercial stuff. So like everyone looks at like product and commercial stuff, the big money maker, because it kind of is. Everyone needs that stuff done, and everyone has that moment where they think, oh, I can set up some lights and shoot some really pretty shots of like a wine bottle or a banana or whatever. It's always because like what it is that people realize like, okay, I need to impress. I need to get like product photos. So I need to shoot stuff. Well, what do I have? I'm a poor college student, so my choices are the banana I stole from the cafeteria and ramen. Maybe the light that doesn't work anymore I might set up. Everyone had that thought of like, I'll shoot product photos. I'll get good at that. That won't be difficult, and I'll enjoy it. And I think like everyone, or like a lot of people like me, I did it for a little bit. I did like some test stuff. I looked around at what people do those jobs, and I absolutely. Oh, you know what? Actually, a really great example. Because like we're getting to that point. You shoot product stuff. You try and do that, and what they ask you then eventually is, we want you to edit it. We want you to retouch it. And you want to do it for our company. And so I've actually done that for a wedding studio where I was a retoucher for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, it went into like December, and I got let go because it's December and nothing happens then. And that was the happiest time I ever left something, because I never went back to them. Because they asked me again, like, do you want to come back in? And it's like, I'll look around. But like I knew my answer was no. It was the most stressful 3 months of my life.
So is it shooting a wedding, or was it like trying to make something look perfect?
No, because like I shoot weddings now as part of work I do. It's like it's a lot of, that's one of the things, like especially if you're an event photographer, that's kind of one of the things. You don't have to, but it's one of the more stable things you can do that fits into like your line of work, I guess, commercially. Like weddings are the closest you get to event work, especially if you're called a second photographer, which is where you're usually shooting more candid stuff. No, it's the complete back end of it. When you are a retoucher, the studio has a very clear idea of what it is they want, and it depends. It's like working in an office. 60% of it is who you work with. It could be kind of like the most mundane job, but who you work with like depends. It really matters on it all. So like, it was all very much that. Wedding studios in Long Island follow a very traditional view, and they just get very well at that studio. Yelling is a norm. Like people just get into arguments about anything. People are always tired. Doesn't matter if it's Monday or Wednesday or Friday or Saturday. They look like they've never slept. Yeah, it's the thing where I always wonder too, 'cause at this point, if I would even be good for office life. Like, I've never really did a retouching job after that. At least not like on a 9 to 5 kind of setup. I've done it for people for like work that I've either done or like maybe they sent to me. I did like some fashion work just recently where someone just like wanted something like stuff removed from the background. Like, I'm happy to do stuff like that because that's a very short term. This is what I want. Send it to me. I'll do it back and forth. Da da da. That's fine. But like waking up, and it was also the thought of going to a building to do the same thing every day. You'd always edit a wedding. It always gonna be the same look. Because it's a studio. They gotta keep every studio like latches on to an idea, especially if they've built like a brick and mortar shop. Like, they need a look, and they always need to keep that look, and they can't really change it because they think maybe rightly so. They think that if they change it, everyone will hate their new stuff. Like a band coming out with like an experimental album.
So okay, so I'm hearing a lot of like street themes, so like drag, protests, and then also of course nerd and chiptune scenes. So do you think there's like a thematic element that kind of draws everything together for the type of photos you like to shoot?
It used to be difficult for me to answer that. Well, it didn't. I realized because I recently, a few years ago, I got back into airsoft, which anyone listening, it's the equivalent of like people who play paintball but then want to dress more like they're people from Call of Duty, so they get into airsoft because airsoft has more guns that look real and you can wear helmets and not be dumb, and you have a reason to buy a $2,000 night vision set of goggles and be considered normal in that group. I love them. Airsoft is a very weird world, but I realized when I got into it that there's generally how people shoot it. Airsoft is usually the big focus on like a new build of a gun or a new build of a look military wise, like with some loadout. There's people who are really big on the detail stuff. And I didn't really, I got bored from that because it kind of ties in a lot of like that sort of like product shooting or commercial shooting, the equivalent of it. They got a few magazines, they have a lot of website stuff, and that's what it's done. I realized I loved shooting stuff when people weren't playing. Like, people would be in prep, getting stuff ready or hanging out, joking around. And I realized I love shooting people. So I realized, like, with airsoft especially, because it's a very usually boring world where people shoot a very specific way just because that's how it gets views or money. I love shooting people doing things. So, like, with the protests especially, like, a lot of times I like going to protest events where they had a print shop that just had, like, an open day. People bring in T-shirts or clothing they had, and like they would print various protests and rally messages on them. And like this kind of moment where no one was really angry or violent. It'd been pretty good in New York recently, but like just it wasn't in the sense of like having to be active, just like people being people, but still in this semi-bizarre world.
Tell us a little bit about, so sticking with the protests. So tell me about some of those shots and tell me what you think that you might have captured. I'm speaking very abstractly here, but yeah, what do you think that you have captured from the protest?
Do you mean like specific or like what am I hoping I've taken away from it?
Well, it's an abstract question, so I'll keep it vague.
Okay, all right, no, that's fine. I can dig with that. Cause I had that thought or something. I didn't have that exact thought, but I had this kind of thought process of like, I guess it's the vulture aspect of photography, to be blunt with it. There is that sense of like, especially like from the ye olden times of photography of like soldiers from like Vietnam or war having this kind of almost voyeur aspect of words fail me right now. This kind of voyeur aspect of capturing the worst or getting this stuff because like if it bleeds, it leads. Like that newspaper mindset of like whatever results matter only. So there's always that kind of sense, even if it's in the back of your head, of when you're going to kind of like any event, because you're thinking, you can't help but get into the thought process of what is going to be good on social media, what is going to resonate with people on social media. And And there's an innocent, good intention style way of thinking with that, but you can very easily go down this road of like, well, whatever works, you know. Like I can approach it with the thought of, okay, I want stuff online because I want stuff online to do well because I want people to see the stuff that I'm showcasing, so that, like in the protests, people get fired up and they go out from the streets onto the actual protest and then they join the cause. But there's also that thought of like, especially with event work, if I'm shooting people, if I'm shooting stuff I find interesting, I want people to see it. Like I already enjoyed it. Like me just going to the events and like experiencing it. Like that's my enjoyment. Even if I'll forget it because I have a horrible memory. If I forget it the day after, it's whatever. If it sticks with me, it sticks with me. So I got my bit out of it already. But like if I put it online and it gets one like or nothing, then I kind of feel like that aspect of by the edit it and put it online, like did I waste it? Almost. It's like anyone, you guys, like if you are working on music and you really love that music, like you got your, to a point, you got your piece out of it, like you enjoyed it, you had the thing, you are proud of it. But then if it goes online, like there's no real strong reaction to it, you kind of feel like, oh, maybe I was wrong, maybe it isn't, maybe I shouldn't be proud of this, maybe I messed up on something.
And I don't think we told people that these are New York protests that we're talking about.
Yeah, though to be fair, I am going up to Washington on July 4th anyway.
Oh, nice.
So, like,
on July 4th?
Yeah, get a little bit outside the city.
Holy crap, that's amazing.
Yeah, someone I feel bad. I spaced off the group, but they're setting up a thing to have buses kind of journey to there for a march.
Damn. That's amazing. Are they free buses or are they?
Yeah. So you just kind of reserve beforehand. I'm imagining they either got a sponsor to help pay for the buses or through a grant. But like, as far as I'm aware, I have to find out more of the fine details. But as far as it was made clear to me that you just needed to reserve ahead of time, so they had a head count for the buses. They're there for like,
I see.
Yeah, like they're there for like 4 or 5 hours, and then they'll be back home. I want to say the same day.
Oh damn! Wow, same day. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably gonna be a late night thing. Like,
yeah,
I don't really have plans for July 5th. So,
but I guess So my question was kind of like, did you? I have felt that before, where like, something with my band recently, for example, like we have this song called Red Hot that's kind of about like fire, and we literally got a fire spinner to choreograph to the music. And I thought it was the coolest thing, and I was like, oh, this is gonna blow everyone's mind, you guys, just you wait. But then it only got like 2 likes and no response, and I was like, oh fuck, come on. But what's an example of something that you thought was deserving of more? Got nothing,
or fell flat. I mean, weirdly enough, a lot of it. Like one thing, because I shoot event stuff, so I can shoot. Depending on it's very much schedule based, but I can shoot a lot of stuff in a week, or I can shoot nothing. Like it's very much what my time is between work stuff and things, and depending on like the work stuff is, I might put that up as well. But so like I end up putting up sometimes like at least one image a day, or maybe even like 2 images a day, or a collage, whatever. Like I tend to try and do a more frequent output because again I can have a lot of stuff, kind of stuff go up, and a lot of it sometimes just falls flat. In terms of like, I'll get some likes on it, but and again, I'll point this out too for folks who are listening. Like, I realize social media is a piss poor response and call methodology for like, is your work good or not? Like, there are a million algorithm tricks and like trades and like there are reasons social media consultants exist, and like if they're actually good at their jobs. So, like, I realize that. But it's still the sense that everyone still looks at social media and kind of thinks this on its virtue alone will go up. It'll exist. But, that's not how it works. Like, a lot of it actually falls flat in terms of what I think its reaction will be. There have been a number of things. I'm actually looking through, like, what I have locally on my computer, the hard drive now. Just that stuff. You know what? Actually, a really good example of this is recently, like, again, with a lot of the Black Lives Matters rallies and protests, I had a bunch of stuff that I thought in terms of, like, the way they looked and the way they were very almost I saw like iconic and like just very strong imagery. And it's not like people hated them, but like they definitely didn't like pick up and carry the way I thought they would. And like I said, there's a million things of it that matter into that. I think a lot of it too is like if you shoot very much like core street style photography, like you go out into the nearby area, you shoot a lot of maybe nature, maybe people, just candid stuff off of the streets. You go whether you're in New York City or in Georgia. I actually follow a number of music photographers who love doing that between shows, and they're very good at editing. They're very selective in what they put up in terms of like the day. Like it'll be 2 or 3 shots, and they're very good with like these primes lenses that they have. And I don't agree with like all their stuff. Everyone has their look and their style, but there's a lot of stuff where I'm generally impressed with what they get and how they shoot it. But it's social media, you know. At the end of the day, there's so much stuff that, if you don't tag a group in it, if you don't have someone connected to those photos as a context, and I try not to say that in like a mean way. In fact, if anything, oftentimes with event work is, I'm going home a bit early and editing some 2 or 3 highlights to send to the group that put it on to get to them as early as possible if I have like the time to do so. At least recently I've started doing that. Like the idea is that as you shoot event stuff, like more often than not, you're working indirectly even for someone who's putting on the event. Like someone put the event on, someone has set it up. So like by definition, there's someone to send it to or tag in it. But yeah, there's a million people out there, especially in the photo world, that do generally just like make portraits and shoot them, and have just either played the game very well or just very good at what they do and have been at it consistently, where like they don't need to really tag people in it or run like the trending hashtag game or anything like that. They just do put up stuff, and like they've gotten enough followers. You know, like everyone has like ups and downs in life and how that kind of stuff works. Yeah. I guess to circle back to the initial question, like, yeah, a lot of stuff has fallen flat, new and old, and then certain things have done much better than I thought they would.
So what's like a specific example of both? So like what's an example of something that you thought was really good that fell flat, and then what's an example of something that you thought was mediocre that kind of had a bigger response than you thought it might have?
Let me see. Like any good thing, the moment I have to think about something specific. Oh, you know what? Maybe I have it up here. There were portraits I shot that I loved, and I still do. I still love them, but it was like once they were like I put on it was there's a phase that went through where like I was trying to be that kind of person where I would just shoot portraits or whatever. And I just wouldn't really tag things and put them up, and nothing happened. Like nothing really ever got the reaction in terms of social media. A lot of my fashion stuff, I still very much enjoy most of it. I'll say, like 90% of the stuff I have up there, I like on my website, for instance. There's always that moment where you start looking through it on a very critical eye, of like, oh, what someone else is asking about it. Like, do I like it or not? So this is just, I mean, I like this image because, again, to someone who doesn't like understand furries or doesn't get the context of the fashion shoot, it's like, it is just like, huh, that's weird. Is it a music? So it's, there's a furry label. Actually, there's a furry magazine called the FF Collective. It only had like 2 issues. It kind of runs on like a once a year sort of thing. And this is for issue 1. For issue 2. For issue 2, they did a thing where we had like a big collaboration with a bunch of photographers, a bunch of clothing, and I actually got a bunch of labels, smaller clothing labels that existed online largely, to send me samples just straight up to shoot with. Just a straight up like, these are some jacket stuff, here's some shirt stuff. Like the hat is from a different designer. It's from someone on Etsy, Stabler Cake. And the shirt's from a different person. And the jacket is from, oh god, I just forgot his name. Purple Moose or something like that. I'll see if I can find out. But it was this, it's this printing studio that does clothing also. So they make their own stuff on site. Their back end is, like their back end of the store is their studio. And the front end is their clothing front. And they're in, I want to say, Idaho. And they have these jackets they've made that are like they're handmade and like they're in the $100 to $200 range, like very expensive jacket. And they still graciously sent me one, which I was very, very careful with, because I did not want to buy it at the time. I could not easily afford that at the moment. But it was an awesome shoot, and I loved it. It was a thing where like we end up picking different shots for it, but I put these all online. And like this one, just like I love the straightforward like vertical shot. I realized when I started doing a lot of fashion stuff a few years ago, I straight up just have a quirk, I'll call it nicely, where I just like shooting vertical shots and almost nothing else, to the point where I've had to do secondary shoots for fashion where I realized I had no horizontal shots for them to use in a square format for like social media. I just love verticals. I had this one. I shot this one. Like, this one, the first stuff. So, like, my editing on it is very base. I still have it on my site because I love it. And, nothing online. Absolute nothing. The person in it, the fursuiter, is called Solar Dog. He obviously liked it. And, like, he liked a lot of stuff I shot with him. And, like, he tagged it and retweeted it. But, like, it was just this sort of dead on arrival shot for online. And it's the kind of thing where even like, again, like going through a lot of the fashion stuff, a lot of times I shoot a very specific idea of what I like as fashion. Because I mean, a lot of times if it isn't coming from a studio, I either have to make the choice of buying it, and so like I either own it or I'm going to give it to the model afterwards. And so some stuff, any good fashion stuff, $50 or more, $100 or more, very cheap, very affordable, great deals. And so, like, it's that constant question of, do I either buy this and just accept the fact that it may not do well, or do I don't and try and contact them to try and get it as some sort of trade setup or collaboration, or do I just move on? Like, do I shelve it for later? So a lot of the fashion stuff has either fallen or not. And again, a lot of that it is very much, I think, the social media thing. Like, I don't think I'm the best. I don't think I'm the best at anything. To put that one in a simplest form, I don't think I'm the best at anything. But and then on that same point, Not on here. I don't have them on here because I haven't updated for this year's MagFest. But MagFest was a great example of the exact opposite, where I obviously was tagging people in it from when I knew who they were in terms of the shows and the performances. But I don't know if you got a chance to go to any of the nighttime club stuff at the Pose Lounge where they did a bunch of the game shops and other showcases. It was like it did suck because it was right in the middle of when they do the big shows for like the main stage. So you might be playing straight up during then, or might have been at one of the bigger shows. But I shot like all of that Pose Lounge stuff, and it was fun. It was nuts. We had police security call the first night because they had way more people. It was Thursday night, and we was packed. And it was immediately because it's on the, I don't know if you've even seen Pose, but it's this 2-story kind of club thing that looks like straight from like a New York club. Like it's all big windows and like 2 bars, and there's like a second floor where they have the DJ with the idea of you dance on the bottom and you can dance up top if you want. Everybody was up top. It's like a third the size of the place, and everyone was up top, packed, and like. So that stuff, I made sure like try and edit that as soon as possible afterwards because all the musicians were interested in stuff from that. I knew a lot of them didn't have stuff from beforehand, like any event photos in general, because a lot of them do online shows, like what everyone does now. A lot of them have been doing that stuff for a while because it's hard to. I guess it's the kind of thing, the same thing for them, where they can have a lot of followers online, but a lot of their followers are spread out. So when they try to do like a tour or a bunch of local shows, their online presence might not mean anything. It might not translate to like trying to impress a local venue, or they know that they can get a lot of people at MagFest or like an anime con because those people will go to those. But like trying to do it in their local town, there might only be like 10% of their fans there. So them having a live show that might even have good photos may not even exist. So like all of those photos, like I made sure all I did was like send it to them, ask them if they wanted to buy it or not, send them a few highlights for social media, whatever. And like every single one of those were getting like a few of them got like a few hundred retweets and likes and stuff, and like going from like a 0 to it's not like they were these massive viral things by all means, but it was a thing where like I had to do so little advertisement on them because they again have these big followings online and they were happy to get good stuff to showcase. It's always, you know what? It's fucking weird to talk to someone else like, oh yeah, I got 100 retweets on it. It made it. The photo was good. Therefore, it's odd. I really try not to focus on that stuff too much. It really, I said it before, but I guess to get into the meat of that, it really doesn't matter how good your photos are. As shitty as that sounds, it also should be liberating. It doesn't matter how good your music is. It doesn't matter how good of a dancer you are. It doesn't matter if you're the perfect model, like just like body type, just how you naturally exist and train and eat. You have like the perfect body. It doesn't matter. And I don't mean that in a negative light. I mean that in a sense of you're not going online and putting your stuff on there and having no one like it necessarily because you're shit. It's not. I personally have always had the mindset of, I tell my friends as a joke, the best artist is the one with no self-esteem. And like I've also taken that to an unhealthy level, especially in the past. And like it's a thing where any mindset you have can overcome what you're doing and shield the good and blur the good and the bad. But like I say that in the mindset of you should if you, the we always are, I guess when we start posting online, we're kind of afraid or anxious, like we're gonna post this online and everyone's gonna hate it and they're gonna say how much they hate it, and that actually wouldn't be that bad because the worst case scenario is you made a shitty thing. It's easily fixable. That's easily fixable. You can make more shit in your future. You're not gonna make no one gets. I guess going back to this social media thing, no one gets viral intentionally. No one does that by a plan, and most people who have planned to try and do that fail. We always think we have like this one opportunity in life, like, that was that one thing. I shot this one good photo, or I went to this one show, and like these guys are really big and they like my stuff, and there's no one else really there, and like, I didn't get the photos to them soon enough, and they never got back to me. And it's probably my fault, and something I did, and it's like, or they're spastic, and there's a reason why they don't have good photos. It's because they never get back to people, or maybe their photo just got lost. Your photo just got lost in a sea of emails.
That's actually a really interesting point, especially because like it feels like right now people who are getting viral are what you would call like Karens and Kens. I don't see a lot of funny viral stuff anymore. I see like, look at this dumb white person like yelling at these black people.
Yeah, well, the most recent one, I guess, on that vein, I loved. It's this insane moment that happened in, I'm gonna say Florida. I just spaced on where the protest happened. They had a protest where they were walking through the semi-residential area, and like from what I could gather from the video, it was fairly just like straightforward. They're marching and chanting, nothing else. They're not even like really on the. They're like maybe on the sidewalk, but like they're not on anyone's property. But we have this video of this rather middle-aged guy, rather middle-aged woman, very, I don't know, very suburban. Like you would see them and immediately think they have a house in a nice residential area, and they probably have a pool, and they probably like not bad, not good. Like they probably at least one of them plays Facebook games still. At least one of them. That's just sort of like mindset of like the persona they were. The guy had an AR-15 in his hand, and she had a tiny pistol, because they were terrified. Yeah, they were terrified that the marshals were going to raid their house or destroy it, and that was a terrifying moment, I think, for the protest involved, because the moment they walked out, you can see in the video, they had no idea how a gun should be held or like how it should be utilized safely, ever. She had this way of holding the gun where like it was a cell phone. So not funny. That wasn't funny. No, but the memes afterwards. Choice. This one that turned them into a movie poster for Bonnie and Clyde. So I think what you're referring to is the fact that in this chaotic time, our best humor really does come from like trying to envision a area where there is someone else mentally or physically worse off than us, like that deserves it in some karmic rebalancing. You know, it's like being in school when you're in high school and college, and like most people's high time in high school and college, I think now if they're, especially if they're like in the nerd vein of some sort, probably didn't have a great time in either one of them. Probably had like good times in college when they were with their friends or whatever. But sure enough, like they all found themselves like looking at dumb stuff online of like compilations of crazy Russian drivers in Russia, you know? Those compilations. We grew up with like those were massive when we were kids. Like, and like I grew up with those as like definitely like a sanity check of like, well, that's not me. My life isn't too bad. The humor aspect about our protest is interesting.
If you had taken that picture, like if you had taken that picture of the Karen and Ken, would you have wanted credit for that picture, or do you think you would have been happy that the content had just been viral?
I want to be an altruistic, beautiful person, but like I understand, and like I understand after a certain point that's not really my choice. Like that's an interesting question to ask because yes, short answer yes. Long answer, after a certain point of it be, let's say like I posted somewhere on Twitter and like just the base shot, you know, like I get like one good telephoto shot of them and like, ooh, I like this and like nuts. So I post up along with other stuff, and like it would probably get like retweeted to a decent point for someone to like pick it up for like Reddit or whatever, for, you know, for them to run with it. But like at some point it either reaches Reddit or it reaches someone on Twitter who makes the first set of memes or whatever. Like after a certain point, like it's not my choice anymore. Very soon along the lines, it's irrelevant of what I think in terms of, do I want credit? Sure, I would love that. If I think everyone, I think on the internet like has that sense of it would be cool for my mini legacy among whatever else I do, like at the starter of a meme or a viral thing, you know, much like a song someone makes, like early nerdcore where someone makes, you know, like download this song is actually a great example to refer to this musically. Like MC Lardis download this song from like, I don't know, 1684, whatever that song came out. Like it seems forever ago, but like it definitely got a viral kick then because of this shout out at the all the music companies and like talking about Napster and all that stuff. Like it was a viral hit. I forget how big it got. Like it had a decent kick to it. And I learned about it because a random download on LimeWire had it labeled as some other song. Like of course it does. And never knew about MC Lars' attribution of having made the song till years later. And so, after a certain point, you don't have that choice of will you be credited with something? Because there's too many lines down. And I don't really think it's the same thing as like the social media thing. I wouldn't stress about it because I knew that would happen. I know that would happen, whatever I did after a certain point. I think if I just got like a little slice of it, like the initial kick of people kind of knowing, I would just make it like, I would make, I guess it's specific. I would make it a Twitter header, and I would say like, I'd make a pinned tweet of it and just do that thing I see a lot of cool people do, where like if something like they say on Twitter gets viral, like gets retweeted like that 100,000 times, whatever, where they just start putting links to protest groups that they can help, or like donation links, and like just leave it at that. Because again, going back to that original mindset of, you don't usually get like one chance. And like maybe looking back on your life, you can go like, oh, that thing gave me this opportunity to be this. Like it looks like it's one chance, but it's not like, our life is really a video game where if we don't get that one QTE, that's it. We're just a save game that never gets completed. Most people's lives aren't that. I like to think. So just like the viral thing, whether that catapulted my career or did absolutely nothing, I would still like have plans the next day. I would still wake up the next day and do stuff. It wouldn't radically change it. Like if you got $1 million tomorrow, someone you've never heard of, an uncle in Dubai, gets thrown off a building 2,000 stories up because he wronged the wrong set of Russian mafias, and his inheritance auto kicks over to you. So like you wake up next day and like some dude lands this private helicopter in the street and walks out in this beautiful suit and just hands you a blank check of like $1 million. It's like, here you go, sir. He'd want you to have it. Your life would honestly change a little bit if you just suddenly got $1 million. But at the same point, I think anyone smart would realize, well, maybe if I have a shitty job, I might quit it because I've got a little bit to fall back on and try stuff. But I'm not going to like buy a yacht and like sail around the world. Realistically, we're not going to suddenly be like, whoa, what's an insane thing to do? I'll fly to the moon. I'll get a ticket for SpaceX. And maybe people do. Maybe like there's some like thing at that moment where they felt like, if I just had a yacht, my life would be complete. Because we'd all have that spending splurge. We'd all have that shit of like, okay, what short-term list? Like get rid of debt, do this, buy a house. But realistically, probably wouldn't burn $1 million like in a week. I think if people would start realizing like, okay, that short-term rush of like buying things is kind of fading off. I either crash hard and like just keep spending, or like I get back into my life and realize what was my plan for before this.
this leads me to many more abstract questions, but I don't want to lose. It is a chiptune nerdcore podcast, so okay.
Please,
So
I've been looking up chiptune things in the background. Why we've been talking about this to remind us of like what's recent news anyway.
yeah. So here's kind of like a neatly boxed question that'll bring us back on topic here. So how did you get into chiptune and nerdcore?
Chiptune itself was years ago. Oh God, I have to look up. See if I can find it at this point. It's not even on my site. It's on. Oh, it might still. There's okay. This is a tiny tangent that goes back to that question. So I work with a lot. And I still do. It's really just kind of like one the pandemic and like life before that. But I work with this awesome guy called Matt Hawkins that runs this awesome site called Fort 90. And it's giant. It is basically just like a giant headspace of his life, which is like 50%. The good old years of bizarre Asian t-shirt designs and chiptunes blended with like these bizarre findings he scours the world like into online for, and then like this stuff that happens locally. And it was because of him, really going back to it, he was the downfall of it all. He's what started me down the path. So I should point out for folks who don't know this, because most people don't, Long Island is a thing of New York. If you look at a map, there's New York, and there's like a tiny little paint strokes next to New York, which looks like someone just like smudged something and then erase it off the map. But those are actual places. And I live on one of them, which is called Long Island, which is connected to, and technically we're Brooklyn. You'll never get anyone in Brooklyn to say that, but we are technically. And so on Long Island, we had one con that dealt with anime stuff, which no longer exists. But we had this one con and nothing else. And it was called Icon. And it died off a while ago. 6 to 10 years ago, I'm going to say, because I can't remember. Yeah, it was, let's see, I was still in college. Yeah, it had to be at least something like that, because I was still in college and I hadn't gone away for college. So it died off a while ago. And it was the thing where, like, again, looking back on it, it was this sort of thing like it was doomed to fail. But it was the only thing we had. So we loved it in Icon. And it had the thing where it started off as a sci-fi one, threw in some dashes of anime, had a few bits of furry, and then invariably, like, gaming became a big, like, I don't know, like, injection of stuff into all those spots to the point where they didn't have chiptunes, but they had random panels about chiptunes, mostly ran by Matt to a degree, who'd be like a speaker in a bunch of them, and then a bunch of his friends who he knows damn near almost every chiptuner that exists in New York. And I remember being on a bus that went from like one little section of campus to another one to go to something for the con. I saw him, and I was exceptionally antisocial at this point in my life. I would say I was most skilled at being antisocial around this time, and I only got lazy at refining that skill as time went on. And I don't even remember why, but I remember him talking about something about news, and my first thought was, oh, this guy, he might write for someone. I should talk to him because I can give him my photos to put him up somewhere. That was my mindset for like 90% of the conversations with people up until like maybe 2012. If I went to an event, it was like, hi. In my head, it was like, take my stuff, put it online, get me views. I want to say that was probably why I talked to him. But I had talked to him, found out about his website, thought it was insane and amazing at the same point because I'd never seen anyone so much into this weird Japanese shit that I had just recently gotten addicted to. And so he was like an expert to me. And probably still is. He knows way more about he gets way more into the details about this stuff than I ever will. I'm always very big on the visual experience, or like the experience of the event. I can wax poetic about like MagFest and stuff, but if you ask me to name more than 4 bands, I'll probably get the 4th band name wrong. I'm just really bad at devil in the details. I'm just really bad at the details. It's like, it's probably another reason I was not a great retoucher. But so I talked to him about that. He mentioned his stuff. He mentioned he lived in New York. Icon was a bus, like it almost was. It was a fun bus, but it was still a horrible mess of a con. I mentioned to you, this is the con where the guy Naruto ran off a ledge, and we never found out if he lived or died. That was that year too. And another memory I thought about after that fact is that Icon is the first place I took a photo of the line of people do it in emissions where someone commented, everyone looks so sad like they're on a food line. Because it was outside and it was raining and they're just these people. It was such a dumb idea. Like they had no other option, but like it was such a bad. But I met him there and he mentioned there's a local show with this group that used to work. He did like a few jobs, a few exhibitions with called Baby Castles. They've been at MagFest. They work sometimes with Death by Audio Arcade. They were the one that ran a bunch of those indie games that are in the arcade area for MagFest. If you've ever seen like a large boat video game, like you just mashed a button to win, yeah, they've had these for a while. Baby Castles eventually end up being like a lot more performance art stuff, and their MagFest stuff is usually things that they still have that they now just sort of put up, still like maintain, versus making new stuff. Death by Audio still makes new things. And they were the ones. They weren't that then, but they knew Matt, and Matt in turn knew these people, and he asked me to come over to one of the events. Like, you take a photo of it, it'd be fun. And that was where I knew chiptune. That's where I met people like BitShifter, who I recall specifically from one of the photos I put up from that event, or just in the crowd. Someone called him the sexiest grandpa alive in New York.
Just a
they're not wrong.
Weird side note. Every single episode of the Triheart podcast we've had so far, BitShifter's name comes up organically.
Oh, yeah?
Every single time. It's so weird. It is so weird. But sorry, you keep.
Okay, I sent you a link in Skype to a photo. I don't know if the actual article. Oh, is this the actual? Oh, it is. Oh shit, those are. Oh god, those are my photos. God, they suck. And look, you're talking about that first photo in the group, BitShifter.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Here, I'll send you the full link to that because that's fun. I didn't think it'd go to all of them. I'm surprised this stuff is still up. But yeah.
Oh, just tell us Oh, sorry. Just any photo you reference, just because it's a podcast. Just let us know what's going on in it.
Sure. I picked that specific photo because that was the first photo I ever got into. Actually, the one and only photo I got into the digital version of. Fuck, what was the magazine? It doesn't exist now, so I'm trying to recall what the hell it was. Game Informer. They had a digital zine of Game Informer, and someone was working for them for technically it was an ad for Baby Castles, but it became an article. Zen Albatross, which is a designer and also a chiptuner himself, who was working with people for the article. In that, what's happening, and there's a few photos down the line where you see that bizarre red, like 3D image cubes, like some weird tech demo thing for like a PS Vita game. That is 3D Tetris, 3D VR Tetris. Well before we ever had the Switch or any of this good VR garbage, we had the good shit, which was these guys hacking an Xbox Kinect, wiring up to a plastic red blue 3D glasses. You see the wires on the side there in some of the photos. They hacked it up and wired up to that, so people use the controller to move the cube block itself around, the one at the end, and then their eyes, track their head movement to move the cube around to fit it in. That game, I think, only ever lasted for like a few weeks as a thing, because the idea of trying to build into something that you'd take somewhere was impossible. But this was an insanity of it was an insanity of an event. It was amazing. It was this weird little space that, like any good New York space, you can't fucking find it outside. It's a black wall with a door that looks like it's never been opened again. It's been welded shut. No advertisement. No knowledge of where it is. You just wait outside the number on the door because that's what they told you on the address until you knock eventually and someone opens it. And you have this giant world of art and people who probably live there and just like moved all their beds out of the way and made this space for like chiptunes. It always had this sense of like Rent, either the movie or the play, it doesn't really matter. Like it had this sense of Rent of like, yeah, art will survive. We'll do this stuff, and like we're only doing this for the art. And the reality of it, like no one makes any money off these things, and they go back to a job they hate, and like they all probably sleep in this area with like 16 other people, but like they believe in this shit, so they make it work somehow. Um, like I said, it had this very ad hoc vibe to it always, and it was amazing. And it hooked me. I'm describing this such a way because like the moment I walked in and started taking photos, I was hooked immediately and eternally on this mindset of New York having these stupid plans. I used to call them. They were amazing. They were never built with a sense of having money made or being viably sustainable or being something that you could like raise money for and do later. There's always thoughts and like plans to do that afterwards, but like it was always an afterthought. Like we'll just have it, we'll ask for money, and it'll just work out. And it never did. You know, much like a lot of things that still happen today, people will still and still do, but I still generally enjoy that mindset because, like the idea of Tetris 3D VR, you would never get that now, or if you would, you'd get it in a very simplified form that could be sold on a mobile platform so that people could do it. Oh, Glowmag. Sorry, BitShifter and Glowmag. Glowmag is I always mix up. Glowmag is the one called the sexiest grandpa in chiptunes. BitShifter is everywhere. Yes. Glowmag I love because Glowmag we actually did an event a few months ago before the pandemic where he had helped. No, sorry, I wasn't with Glowmag. It was what Matt had shown me. This guy that made these edits, like giant VHS mixtapes of like horror and comedy and then softcore porn. And he'd been making them for years. And he made his final episode, which we showed in a theater, which was amazing also. But so this is like my first experience of chiptunes. It was like Glowmag and BitShifter and a bunch of people running this stuff. And I had heard it online because even back then I thought it was sort of a thing where if you knew enough people that did video game stuff online, because like we didn't really even have Twitter or any of this stuff. It was like Facebook was the biggest thing at this point. But even then, like you would know enough people that I should also point out, Phil Fish was there to help make the game. I just faced on what game he made years ago that was wildly successful. But Fez, he made Fez. He went on to make Fez. Yeah, but he helped them make this game years back before Fez was ever a thing. Yeah, a lot of these games that came from these sort of little small things. For all me saying that they're like these shitty stupid ideas, a lot of these games went on to become like massive arcade hits on either Xbox Arcade or the PlayStation Arcade or like on Switch or on the Wii. Like a lot of them did amazing.
Do you think there's something to that? I'm hearing that a lot, like stupid things that you think are kind of stupid that you don't think amount to anything, and then they amount to so much more.
No, absolutely. There is this sense of okay, because like there are smart ways. If you were to make a game or if you were to make a music album, there are smart ways to go about it. There are logical ways of like, okay, let's kind of storyboard out what do you want to do for the game. How do you want to make it? What's the idea? How long would it take? Do we need more people? We'll need funding. You know, there's a way you can like methodically go through and like figure it out like a well thought out plan. And they can still fail. Or it can still like be made as a game and suck. You know, it doesn't matter how much money gets poured into it. And then there are other people. Like, you know, Fish is a great example. He just made Fez on his own. And we have a handful of people we know over the years that have just made on their own a game, Braid, which is a weird example because he had a lot of money of his own just to set into it, but he still put a lot of money of his into it, and it took years to make. And it is a good platformer, but like on a storyboard, it's a platform with time travel, and that's it. Like that could have failed fucking hard. There always has to be this sense of, I think in life for people to still be happy. And like this goes back to the idea of like what is art's place in the world, which has like always been fueled by that, or are video games art kind of thing. There's always this sense of at some point you need to do something without a plan to it because it's immensely fulfilling to you in some way you can't even begin to put down in words until potentially years later. You know, like even looking back on this kind of thing, like I knew then it was fun. And then like we'd go on to the next one, and I just shot these, gave them the photos, and moved on. It wasn't this sense of like I knew what we had here or anything like that. If anything, I didn't think there was anything to these. I thought this is amazing. Holy shit, I'm glad I don't live with these people. But yeah, No, I'm saying like just I guess to summarize, there's this sense you need these stupid plans. You need these stupid plans, especially in things like video games. One, if you ever want to make the argument of are video games art, then at some point you need to approach it like art, which there are people in art who approach things very methodically, like on a mathematical almost level, and plan things out. And like it's art on this well thought out like sculpture or like performance. And then there are people who make a game of. Then there's the people that make a game that like they try and recreate an LSD like trip that goes bad, with the thought process of there's not really an ending. You just play until you get done with it. Well, let's say no. That's where I was ending on that. Just like you need that stupidity to enjoy everything else sometimes.
One thing I wanted to bring up was, our first guest that we ever had on this show was Jen De La Vega, and she had basically brought up a point that chiptune and nerdcore really doesn't have that much journalism. So being one of the few documentarians of chiptune and nerd scene and nerdcore, what do you think you know about the scene that the scene does not know about itself?
I kind of, I'm sure you guys have brought it up, like with the whole chiptunes wins debacle that's happened over the last few weeks. But it raises a good point. It's already been talked about in terms of harassment and the human loss along the way that's happened. But even before that, while like a stupid plan can work, and like, we enjoy those, there are a lot of people in chiptunes who just sort of make chiptunes, put them out, and then move on. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that if you just want to make music. But like there are on the other side of things, a lot of people, and I bring up like Game Chops, the music label, and then there's a lot of people who are just on their own have incorporated chiptunes into their work, along with a mixture of a million other like genres, like whatever works for them, and they've made very large following. They've been able to do shows, they've been able to get opportunities. And I'm not saying that they have to like destroy what they love about chiptunes to become popular, but there are clearly ways where you can blend and create things that you both can enjoy, that both the artists you can enjoy, and that people can reciprocate back with reactions and such, that you can continue on that path. I think chiptunes is still a world where a lot of people make things just for the sake of making it, which is in itself amazing. But then there's that sense of if that forever, like if it would by its isolation almost die out by like not feeding itself in terms of movement. Like I don't want to say money, but like to a point, like everyone needs money to survive. We need to buy food, we need to pay rent, we need to pay bills, and we want to buy new shit that helps our work. And it's hard to budget that when like there's not a lot of that to go around. And if we don't have this sense of like being important, or having our work be important enough to enough people that we feel like it's worth it. There's a lot of people, like, again, I'm very much people-centric. If people love my work, that's the biggest rise for me. Like, I can make my own stuff, and I do enjoy it, but there's rarely such a big hit when people enjoy what I do. And I think chiptuners have that biggest sense more than other musicians. They love, because of being in this niche genre, they love people being positive about that, reacting to that stuff. I think one of the biggest draws of MagFest is being given this giant audience that they can just be themselves. Not most of them. Some of them maybe. But like, and it's not that you gotta sell your soul to the devil to get to that point. It just, I think there's some smart plays you can make, chiptuners can make to bridge that gap. Like just having your own plan is fun. Having a few smart steps stolen from other people who have done things successfully is not gonna destroy it along the way.
So we're almost out of time, but just before we finish up the conversation, I just wanted to make sure that you got a chance to tell everybody where to be able to find you.
Oh, okay, good point. My website is just, technically my website is just a portfolio site. I write articles on that, but it's always sporadic based on like when everything else is done for life kind of thing. So, but I've done good on that. If you want to find out anything about me, which is mainly just me, enjoying very weird Japanese photographers, which has been my latest craze the last few months, because they all exist on Twitter. But it's pixel journalism, just about anywhere else. And then technically on Twitter, it's Madness Earl, which is my alternative identity I've built over the last few years that will take a long time to explain the mindset behind. But yeah, really, if you type in pixel journalism, which I'm still amazed I ever got that name, anywhere it'll pop up all my social media stuff, and like I'm on social media the most. Like I've enjoyed talking with people on there and like seeing the stuff, especially again with the protests and the last few things. Like, yeah, that's my jam. Twitter and Instagram, Facebook. If you're really desperate and you need to talk to me or ask me something, I treat Facebook like the dealer you go to once a month. You spend all 5 minutes with like, yeah, sure, no problem. I gotta go. Bye. Like, you do what you need to do. You get out.
And we really do need to have you back because we didn't touch half the topics that I wanted to get to talk to you about today. Nerdcore. You have a great photo shoot with Schaefer the Dark Lord, Mega Ran, and of course we were talking about furry porn. So definitely that.
Well, furry porn, you have to let me know about, because that could be a whole episode on its own. Because I can go into the history of a million different things. Dude, there are controversies in the furry world that would skin your hair. That's
Okay,
a job security right there. I got to leave a cliffhanger at the end.
Okay, last question. So one thing we had talked about before we started recording was how, you don't have very many pictures of yourself on even any of your social medias. Like, I researched and looked you up for this episode, and I have no idea what you look like. So if we had photos of you, what do you think that we would get out of that we wouldn't get now?
Mainly a distaste from me, I think.
Oh, so you think people wouldn't like you?
No, not that. I like being harsh. I said at the beginning, like, I like being harsh myself because I think the best artist is one with no self-esteem. Unfortunately, you can't turn that switch off. And so the reality of it is that there's not a lot of photos of me because it wasn't until like this year that I liked what I was visually. I think now, I guess, you know what? Technically, there is a photo of me on Twitter, but it won't fucking help anyone. Because now I think people would love photos of me because it would just confuse them all the more. Because like my photos now are me, like from what I've loved most with Airsoft is that I just now find the weirdest balaclavas or neck wraps or head wraps, goggles and glasses, and I make myself look like some sort of alien from like the 70s going to a rave. So I think next time I'll try and compile a small list of like photos that are of me from like only from the last year, just because that would confuse people all the more. It would help them 0%.
So people would understand more about you if they didn't have any access to photos of you.
Yeah, I'm what is it? Like I've got a face for radio. I've got like my tech descriptions of me will always be as insane they are. Will be better off than yeah. You know what though? They'll be entertained. That's the best I can hope for with that.
All right, 60 seconds. Any last thoughts?
Oh God. Don't buy Pocky on the first day. Always wait till the third day of a con to buy Pocky.